I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. You know, a minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
Stephanie White stood in front of the cameras, her voice steady, but her words cutting through the noise like a knife. Minus 31 free throw discrepancy, she said, shaking her head in disbelief. That number didn't just tell a story, it screamed it. This wasn't basketball anymore, it was robbery. And if you watch the Indiana Fever versus the Las Vegas Aces...
Disappointing, you know, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways. But we also can't allow that to consume us, right? Like, we've got to be able to play through that. We've got to be able to control the things that we can control.
You know exactly what she meant. From the outside, it looked like a playoff matchup between a young underdog and a reigning champion. But the deeper you looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't a series. It was a heist playing out on national television. Game 1 was the setup. Indiana walked into Vegas and stunned everyone, stealing a win that no one expected. A team with rookies, doubters, and no so-called superstar walked into the champion's house and lit it on fire. That victory should have been the foundation for an incredible underdog story. Instead, it became the moment the script flipped.
Steph, why don't you think you were able to find any flow? And when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. You know, and when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. And you know, we didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm, it's about timing, it's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from.
Because from game 2 on, the whistles started singing a very different tune. Suddenly, the Aces couldn't miss the free throw line. Every trip down the floor seemed to end with a whistle in their favor, and Indiana's defensive effort turned into foul trouble overnight. Fans saw it. The box score confirmed it. Social media exploded with clips that made it obvious. This wasn't about the Aces being better. This was about the Aces being protected. It was about the refs tilting the scale every time the Fever started to find momentum. The disparity was so blatant that even casual fans, people tuning in for the first time because of Caitlin Clark or Aaliyah Boston, could see what was happening. Indiana wasn't just battling Las Vegas, they were battling the officials holding the whistles. By game 2, the bias wasn't subtle anymore.
Angel Wilson is 1 for 12 as a foul is called on Boston, and that will be number 2 on Aaliyah Boston.
You saw Indiana picking up full court pressure defensively, and if you're Aaliyah Boston, that's the one spot on the floor you do not want to get a foul call.
And Stephanie White is trying to challenge it and did not call the timeout in time.
It was shaping the rhythm of every possession. Aaliyah Boston, Indiana's anchor, challenged a foul call on Jackie Young. Stephanie White immediately motioned for a review. Everyone in the building saw it. The bench jumped up, the crowd leaned forward, waiting, and the refs, they ignored it. They flat out refused to even acknowledge the challenge. Seconds later, Chelsea Gray drilled a 3 on the other end, a swing that yanked momentum out of Indiana's hands and shoved it into Vegas's pocket. Gainbridge Fieldhouse erupted in disbelief, and within minutes, that clip spread online like wildfire. Analysts called it proof of rigging, fans demanded accountability, and for Indiana, it was more than a bad call. It was the story of their season being ripped away in real time. Still, through all of that chaos, one player refused to fold. Lexie Hull, a name most fans outside Indiana barely knew. A player listed as questionable, her back injury from Game 1 making every warm-up look painful, every movement stiff. She wasn't supposed to be the hero. She wasn't even supposed to be on the court for long stretches.
Put up by Lexie Hull getting called for the foul.
I thought it was egregious, honestly. I mean, I thought it was obvious. You know, I felt like AB got one, had one going to the rim. They're in rotation. And then Lexie's, I felt like equally, you know, we talk about, you know, coming into the path, and it was an offensive player veering into the defense.
And yet, she turned herself into the heartbeat of Indiana's fight. 16 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal. She did it all while limping through pain, gritting her teeth on every defensive assignment and somehow finding the strength to drain massive threes that revived the Fever whenever Vegas threatened to pull away. Each shot wasn't just points on the board, it was oxygen. It was life support for a team being smothered by whistles. By the end of 2 games, Hull had tied a Fever playoff record with 8 threes, something no one expected from a role player battling back pain. Cameras caught her wincing, grimacing, even collapsing into teammates' arms during timeouts. But she never stopped boxing out bigger players, never stopped diving on the floor, never stopped pushing her body past its limit. Her performance was the stuff of legend, the kind of night fans tell stories about for years. But here's the cruel part. On the night Hull gave Indiana her soul, the spotlight didn't shine on her. It was stolen. Stolen by controversy, by referees, by the endless parade of whistles that drowned out her courage. And maybe that's the perfect metaphor for the Fever themselves. Underdogs who keep standing tall, even as the league itself shoves them aside.
You have drawn the most offensive foul in the W this year, including the playoff. How are you able to do that?
I'm just trying to defend as hard as I can, and there's only certain screens you're allowed to set, so just trying to trail them, and that's all I can.
A'ja Wilson was supposed to be the face of dominance in this series, the MVP who set the tone and crushed the hopes of challengers. Instead, she opened Game 3 with a confident three-pointer and then vanished. 1 for 11 at halftime. 6 makes on 20 attempts by the end. 13 points on 20 shots. For a player hyped as unstoppable, it was nothing short of dreadful. But here's the thing. Most stars in that situation get exposed. Wilson didn't. Not because she rose to the occasion, but because the refs kept her afloat. Every time Aaliyah Boston locked her down in the paint, every time Wilson forced a bad fadeaway, whistles appeared to rescue her. And when the game ended, the media spun the story like it was no big deal. They praised her all-around impact, sprinkled in talk about rebounds and blocks, and pivoted to celebrating Vegas's depth. What got buried was the truth. Boston neutralized the league's MVP, possession after possession. That should have been the headline. Instead, it was rewritten to protect the superstar. And then Becky Hammon had the audacity to complain post-game that Wilson only shot 1 free throw in 38 minutes.
Boston has the mismatch on Lloyd. Help comes. Kick out. Hull will fire. And hit from 3. Last 2 positions inside from Indiana. Smith tied up by Hull, and a jump ball between Smith and Hull.
The irony is insane. The Aces have lived at the line all series. Their free throw count has ballooned to levels fans call absurd. Yet somehow they still paint themselves as victims. Watch the tape and the double standard is clear. Boston gets hammered in the post, no call. Lexie Hull takes a forearm to the chest, play on. Fever players brush jerseys, instant whistle. Vegas throws elbows, undercuts box outs, shoves defenders to the floor, silence. It wasn't oversight anymore. It looked like an agenda, and that's what infuriated fans. This wasn't the champs outplaying the underdog. It was lifelines being handed over until the scoreboard tilted their way. But here's what makes the Fever different. They didn't fold. They didn't quit. They kept fighting even as the odds stacked higher every night. Hull's grit, Boston's defense, Kelsey Mitchell's relentless shot-making.
On the left side of the floor, just a clear out, letting Jackie Young go to work.
Jackie Young with 17 points. Boston to the corner. Hull, catch, fire, and hit. Correct call. Evans dishes. Ray whips a pass inside. What a denial from Lexie Hull.
The Hull able to save the play.
12-point game, a little under 2.5 to go. Hull hits Indiana's first field goal of the...
It should have been enough to put Indiana's rise on the national stage. Instead, the story was hijacked by officiating, and that's why Stephanie White snapped. After Game 3, she didn't play nice with her words. She didn't stick to the cliché coach speak about adjustments. She called it out for what it was. -31 free throw discrepancy. Her voice cracked with frustration. The disrespect, she said, was unbelievable. And she's right. White has been in this league for decades, as a player and now as a coach. She's seen tough losses. She's lived through battles. But this wasn't basketball. This was her team getting robbed of the fair chance they'd earned, and her demand was crystal clear.
Here's Boston, back to Hull. Sets herself up. Mitchell is free, laying it in. Been a while since Mitchell has gotten a shot attempt. Mitchell will get one here. It's hit.
Not a quiet memo, not a meaningless apology, a full-scale league investigation into officiating. Something real, something public, something that could actually restore integrity to the game. Because this is bigger than Indiana. The Fever aren't just another team. They're the face of the league's future. Caitlin Clark filling arenas. Aaliyah Boston becoming a defensive anchor. Lexie Hull winning fans with warrior-like toughness. Kelsey Mitchell showing she belongs among the league's best guards. Without them, without this surge of attention and sold-out crowds, the WNBA doesn't have this spotlight.
Back to Hull, wide open three is good.
The floor that she wants, doesn't it?
It does. Mitchell, connect. Here's Mitchell. Mitchell, one more. You bet.
And yet, instead of protecting that momentum, the league risks burning it down by letting refs tilt games and hand lifelines to the defending champs. Everyone knows it. Fans, players, analysts. The only ones pretending otherwise are sitting in the league office hoping the noise dies down. But thanks to Stephanie White, it won't. Her words weren't just about frustration. They were about accountability. She pulled the curtain back on what everyone has been whispering about for months. Officiating in the WNBA isn't just inconsistent, it's damaging the league's credibility. If the commissioner ignores it, the message is simple: fairness doesn't matter.
Offensive foul, practically a football check, and the Aces score. So now the Aces cut it to 2, and then Angel Wilson sets an illegal screen, and they tied things up. And then Lexie Hull gets called for a foul for doing nothing when they just had 2 illegal screens they didn't call. All right, so this is fair. Same thing happens on the other side, but they don't call a foul for Kelsey Mitchell. So Aaliyah Boston gets called for this foul for getting her arm grabbed, but Stephanie White can't challenge. They won't let her. That's the second time this game they didn't let her have her challenge. And then Angel Wilson starts acting like a big...
Protecting chosen teams does, and that's why this story matters. Because this wasn't just one series. It wasn't just one coach upset after a loss, it was a public demand for change. A warning shot that if the league doesn't act, fans will lose faith in what they're watching. And if there's any justice left in basketball, Stephanie White's words will be the spark that forces the WNBA to finally fix its dirtiest secret.